Vediamo solo un paio di minuti ancora e poi iniziamo subito. C'è un relatore che deve ancora arrivare. We are here, well done.
No, solo io. Tanto sarò solo io, non parlo da solo ancora. No.
Io sono Anna Culticello e sono il responsabile dell'Ufficio Cultura del desk Italia e Europa Creativa, che è il punto di contatto nazionale per il programma. Quindi cosa fa il desk? Noi forniamo assistenza tecnica e gratuita. Questa giornata si apre con una serie di interventi e siamo qui proprio per far conoscere alla Borsa Mediterranea, quindi al pubblico del patrimonio culturale, del turismo culturale sostenibile, le tematiche del programma Europa Creativa, e sono qui con questo meeting coorganizzato tra il desk italiano e il desk croato. Qui c'è la mia collega del desk della Croazia, e siamo collegati online con Fiona del Franti, che è il funzionario che ha la competenza sul bando per i progetti europei di cooperazione, uno dei bandi più seguiti anche a livello nazionale, ma comunque internazionale, di EACEA, che è l'agenzia esecutiva per l'educazione e la cultura, cioè l'agenzia a cui noi dei desk facciamo riferimento, di cui siamo 38 desk e facciamo parte di un network, e il nostro referente a Bruxelles è appunto l'agenzia che chi già conosce la progettazione europea in sala si rende più nota con l'acronimo EACEA. Nel corso del convegno presenteremo 2 progetti, il progetto italiano Creatività, coordinato da 3D Research, che è uno spin-off dell'Università della Calabria, e il progetto Sea Change, coordinato dal leader croato Container, ed è collegato a Ena da Croazia.
Our creation speaker, and at the time of the second part of this session, we will have a joint activity with all of the cultural routes representatives, all of the cultural itinerary organized by the Council of Europe, so as to give you an idea of what it means, between quotation marks, tourism. And our own colleague Antonio Barone is going to clearly express and explain what this means, together with our colleague Giuliana Di Francesco, who is the representative of the Italian Cultural Ministry. And now the floor goes to Fiona Alberto-Randi. She will make an introduction, a very brief introduction from Brussels, where she is speaking from. And here we are. So good morning to everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Good morning, and as I have been introduced, you know that I am representing the agency launching all of the calls for proposal about Creative Europe, and I am in charge of the cultural program and also the sub-cultural programs. I will introduce the cooperation project. This is the proposal which is the largest one, which is supported by the largest budget of Creative Europe. I thought that the presentation had to be in English. This is why I prepared the English slides. That's okay, that's fine with us. We can read those slides in English, and there is a translation. Now I see that I cannot share my screening. Now, if you allow me to do the screening share, then I will deliver my own presentation. Volevo dire appunto, spiegare un po' la differenza che c'è. Let me explain the difference in between the European Commission and the executive agency. Well, the agency deals with whatever has got to do with the implementation of calls for proposals, selections of projects, contracting of projects, and the Commission instead is in charge of whatever pertains to the definition of policies, especially in the cultural framework. Now, you probably well know that culture is not falling under the competence of the European Union, because each member state is accountable and responsible for their own cultural policies. And now I have been allowed to share my screening at long last, so here it is. You will see my slide, hopefully, and you can see them clearly. This is the first one, and here we talk about Creative Europe. Creative Europe is the program addressing the creative cultural sector, including audiovisuals, together with a plan which goes from 2021 to 2027. Italiano. You may be speaking whatever language you wish, Italian or English, and there is a translation. So then I will use my own language, Italian. What are the main goals of this program? The one of preserving, developing, and promoting the cultural heritage at European level, and at the same time allowing for more competition and more proposals within the cultural creative sector. Now, this can be done through different ways and pathways. There are different programs. One is the cultural program, then there is another intermediate part which has got to do with audiovisual programs and proposals, and many more other sectors, and the ones that are having to do with actions which bring together audiovisuals and culture. Now, the 21-27 budget is of 4 billion. There was a consistent increase in the budget and in the new planning. And thanks to, on the one side, the great success of this great program and also its considerable impact, also the COVID impact on this cultural creative sector, which affected us badly. Now, a lot of the budget is affected and allocated to the cultural activities. And if we take a look at the specific objectives and goals of our own program, we see that we want to increase the level of artistic and cultural cooperation at European level. And quite obviously, since culture is not falling under the competence of member states, the Commission can only allow for something which is additional to what has been done at member state level. So we conduct cooperation, collaboration activities, exchange of good practices, and this is between the different operators at cultural level and different country level. Now, here you see that we also aim at enlarging the audience of visitors, and we see how culture may contribute to improving any such topics. Now, there is also innovation or accent or focus on the innovation. For example, let's just consider how music has been changing the way in which it's been listened at for the past 15 years. And there is also more impetus needed in this creative sector so as to bring about innovation. Now, it is fundamental to take a good look at this screenshot. The increasing of national identities is also very important. Then the culture through international relations, just to name a few of the aspects. And supporting the sectoral approach. But what is this sectoral approach? Well, here, maybe this one will be more explanatory. The cultural aspect having to do with the Creative Europe program, which aims at strengthening the circulation of all of the literary works and of the cultural operators as well. And this can be done as through three specific actions. On the one side, we have the sectoral actions, where the goal and the focus is the one of helping some sectors which have been identified and where there seems to be a more targeted approach. One is the book or publication sector, the music sector, and the cultural heritage sector, because as we know, there are specific calls for proposals in the field of cultural heritage coming and induced by the cultural heritage year, which I believe fell in 2018. The sectoral actions are supplemented and supported by horizontal actions. What does that mean? That means calls for proposals, because they should respond to all of the creative cultural interests typical of these sectors and falling into the field of European cooperation. And as you can see, we also consider a number of different platforms. And in 2021, we focused on the orchestras. And here we see a number of calls for proposals for networks, platforms, and you can see that they are calls for proposals that have been launched every 3 to 4 years. Another one has got to do with European cooperation, and I will explain and elaborate on that in the next few minutes. And here we see the actions coming from the Commission, which are actions probably well known by all of you, which have got to do with the capitals of culture, which have got to do with the awards, literature awards, archaeology awards, music awards, and European heritage. Now, let's take a look at cooperation projects. What are they in the first place? We did mention the fact that the European Commission can only do and carry out actions that are complementary to the ones carried out at national level. So the cooperation project has an ultimate goal of allowing for the activation at cultural creative level in different countries. So different countries have to work together, have to cooperate, have to co-produce, experiment, innovate. They have to allow for great flexibility and mobility. They have to grow in terms of many other aspects. And this action aims at one final ultimate goal, which is the one of the projects which come under the heading or under the hat of this call for proposal, which may be specific or interdisciplinary. So they may be involving different sectors, in other words. The goals, more or less, are pre-established as far as the 21-22 plans and organization planning. On the one side, we can see the circulation at European level, the co-creation at European level, the willingness to leave behind some cultural creative projects, the fact of having joint cooperation and joint working and networking at artistic level, together with the different artists, and then again, the hallmark is innovation. So increasing the skills, the abilities in the different sectors, allowing the talents to innovate, to prosper, to flourish, and to bring new inputs. All of the goals have 6 different priorities. The projects may entail up to a maximum of 2 priorities, and they are all here listed. So on the one side, you have the audience, which is priority number 1, increasing the audience of users and visitors, and how culture is important whenever it boils down to given themes, because we have to include cultural creative projects. We have to have also other aspects such as the ones involving the refugees or the have-nots. And then the second priority is the sustainability, the Green Deal, how to help the creative cultural sector on the one side to be more green and how to integrate more green practices, and at the same time how to sensitize the audience with respect to green themes. So culture comes with a twofold validity and importance. Then the digital sector, how to help this creative cultural sector to make progress in the digital world. And the digital theme is only one of the creative cultural themes and sectors, allowing us to develop new digital forms of art. Then the 5th priority is the international dimension, that is to say, how to help and how to allow small cultural operators who have never been involved at European level and who have never worked at European level to take part into a European context, how to exchange good practices with other operators in the same sector, and then how to turn something invisible into a visible, tangible asset at national level, not only at international level, how to take part in huge and large events that are held outside of Italy, allowing for the visibility of our own artists and of their work. Then the 6th priority is a specific priority, typical of music sector, cultural heritage sector, cultural and book and publishing sectors, the fashion and design sectors, and the sustainable cultural tourism. Now, why these sectors? Well, as I said before, some of the sectors have been mentioned in the legal requirements of our own activities, and all of them are specific sectors, and we want them to work on a specific theme, such as, for example, trading for all of the cultural creative operators, which may be having to do with themes that are typical of the sector, or how to help artists to understand the potential of the sectors, what are the requirements for each sector. Now, cross-cutting issues, what are they? They are cross-sectional sectors, or horizontal sectors, maybe, that could be the target of the projects that have been selected. In our own application forms, we always require how the suppliers intend to contribute to any such themes in terms of gender and quality, and also the so-called green projects. In other words, each project has to explain how they contribute to all of these themes. And this is meant to push forward the creative sector, to push this sector to become inclusive, to take into consideration the diversity, and how to contribute to the Green Deal, such as traveling, exceeding a given mileage, train traveling rather than airplane traveling. So whatever comes into the green folder. And now, what are the eligibility criteria? How to apply? Who can participate to the calls for proposals in cooperative projects? In the first place, let me say that we provide no funding to individuals, and the applicants have to be represented by public entities, and it has to be located in one of the member states or other eligible states, such as Georgia, Tunisia. You will see that in the different links that I will show you, and you may see what are the countries that do not belong to the European Union, but which are nonetheless eligible. And we also need a minimum setup of the consortium, which again I will elaborate on that later on. The coordinator has to exist legally as a legal entity for at least 2 years. There are only a number of eligible activities that are present in the call for proposals, and all of them are wide-ranging and far-ranging activities, and they all belong to typical European cultural themes. Here you see the different categories, or we call them topics rather than categories. As you can see, small, medium, and large. Now, for the small scale, we need at least a partnership made up of 3 different countries. We can ask up to a maximum of 200,000 euros, which is 80% of the co-funding. Now, this is allowing small-scale organizations never participating at European level to take part in this program. Then the medium scale. This is another medium-scale category, which was the true innovation having to do with the 21-27 program and planning at European level. It envisages 5 different countries cooperating up to the 70% of the co-funding. The last category is probably the most important, and here we have a minimum partnership of 10 different countries, and in practice we want to have more countries or European areas to participate, so 10 different countries, and they can ask for a maximum of 2 million in terms of funding, and that is accounting for 60%, and the maximum duration is of 48 months. The budget for the year 2023 will be 60 million. This is a very high budget, and most of it has got to do with Creative Cultural Europe, belongs to this call for proposal. You can see the breaking down of the different categories in terms of budget, and you can see also the quality. So there is no fixed percentage, in other words. Then there is another condition. that has been set. 20% of the budget has to be given or allocated to the priority number 6, which I mentioned before. And here again, this depends on the quality of the offer or the supply, and then it's the assessment committee that establishes what is the final percentage. Now, the impact. The impact is the one of funding some 130 projects, and for the year 2000 and 21, 22, we have funded almost 170 projects. Our budget was more extended, but the impact is going to be nonetheless very, very strong and important, and most of all in line with our goals. Now, let me, before coming to my conclusions, let me provide you with an overview of the results coming out of the call for proposals for the year 2022 to give you an idea of what is the participation rate of different countries and of the different breakdown of all of the categories. In 2021, we selected 121 projects. 84 of them were small scale, 30 were medium scale, and 10 large scale projects. And the rate of success in general was equal to 27%. Now, here you see the countries, the selected countries, and you can see that Italy is one of the major beneficiaries as far as the coordinators. But then if you take a look at the partners of our own call for proposals, I would like to call your attention on Croatia, because I think that there are some Croatian colleagues today with us. 6 projects for a country that is so small is an exceptional result. Very positive indeed. Now, as far as the priorities of the call for proposal for the year 2022, as you can see, we selected 169 projects, and as I said before, 132 were small scale, 28 were medium scale projects, and 9 were large scale projects. The success rate went a little bit down, as you can see. We've received some 700 projects, so this is a call for proposal which is the victim of an incredible success, but as a consequence, the success rate goes down. As far as the year 2022, we've seen 33 projects with an Italian coordinator, and we are well ahead of other projects. And again, then comes Croatia with 5 projects, which for such a small country is an exceptional, very interesting result indeed. Now, let me give you an idea of what we are funding, which sectors we are supporting. And here I would like to focus on cultural heritage, because I know that this is a conference focusing on cultural heritage. We have funded 41 projects in the year 2021 and 2022, and the sustainable cultural objective allowed us to hit and to reach our own objectives and goals in 2022. We already selected 3 projects. There are other projects that belong to cultural heritage and sustainable culture are representing an interesting beginning. Here are other bits and pieces of information. Here we see 3 open calls for Creative Europe. One has got to do with performing arts, known as Perform Europe, that dates back to November the 8th. The second one has got to do with a cooperative project and all of the other cooperative projects that have got to do with the Ukrainian populations and people who had to move elsewhere as a consequence of the war. That dates back to November 29. And the last one, News Europe, which has got to do with music sector, and that dates back to the month of January. The 3 calls have one thing in common, which is the cascading grants. What are the cascading grants? Well, that is what envisages the redistribution of the majority of the funds provided and allocated to the award winners or the project winners in the different sectors. So for Ukraine, the idea is one or more entities, depending on the different priorities, which may then be helping Ukrainians, artists, as well as other individuals, migrating individuals, to work on culture and to take forward some projects. And then the musical sector aims at financing one single project which redistributes the funds in the musical sector so as to reach and achieve smaller but nonetheless interesting results. Other calls have got to do with literary works which are going to be published by the month of November, probably mid-November. I cannot say much more, but the deadline is going to be end of February. So stay focused, take a look at where the call for proposals are being published in a common portal known as Funding Community Portal. And let me also say that in this portal, other Erasmus Plus calls for proposals, European proposals are also going to be published. So if you're interested, again, stay focused and check the portal. Here you find a number of different links to the desk. And I guess that Anna is going to elaborate on this topic. This Cultural EU Funding Guide is very interesting because it provides you with the understanding and the vision of what are the financing and funding opportunities at cultural creative level. And Europa Creativa, Creative Europe, is not the only program which is funding the cultural sector. There are many more programs, and you can find them just by clicking on the links. And remember to take a close look at this page. You will see the projects that were funded in past years, and again, check the database, the project result database, and that could provide you with some inspiration. We also published a number of flyers and brochures that are interesting as far as the previous planning and programming. Again, there you can find some inspiration. This is all I had to say. I hope that I did stay in the time limits that were assigned to me. And Anna, back to you.
Fiona. Thanks, Fiona. Your talk has been very useful because you depicted the general picture of the program, and that allows those who are connected to have a very precise idea and even an updating concerning the year 2023, which is very important for the Eurodesk. I would like now to software del desk of the creation desk, and she will explain to you what are the objectives, our goals of the desk, and dopo passerà per Patrizia. And then we will show you the two projects, and we will then have the two talks on the routes. I should ask you, please be very brief so that we may take questions. Thanks a lot, Fiona. Please stay connected because you will take questions probably. You will, some questions will be posed.
Switch in English. I'm so happy to be here because I really do sincerely believe that heritage is our identity. It's our common history and values have built the European Union. So I really do appreciate the invitation to participate at this event. Actually, heritage is also some kind of a priority, as Fiona said, of the whole European Commission because of those values and identity issues that we are all having in common. So up till now, we had the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. We have lots of initiatives that are related and supported by Creative Europe program or at the European level in general, as Fiona said. But let me just briefly introduce you on how we as DESK can help you and what is our main role. So I hope you understood that European Commission that was represented by Fiona set up all legal frame for Creative Europe as such in order to support culture and creative sector in Europe in general. So executive agency that is mentioned, famous EACEA, is the one who is actually dealing with the all operational programs. So if you want to apply and get supported for your projects in the domain of cultural heritage, but also above all that is related to culture and creative sector, you're applying directly to the agency in the Brussels. On the other hand, we as Creative Europe Desk are kind of support and to the agency in terms of promoting the program. So in each country that exists that is supported by a Creative Europe program, there is a Creative Europe Desk which actually function as a help desk. So as you have seen in Fiona's presentation, if you want to get supported for this very important call called Cooperation Projects Call, you have to have partners. So our role, for example, is to get you in contact and matchmake you with some potential partners in different European countries. Do not hesitate to contact us, and we can also help you in providing some technical assistance while applying for Creative Europe program. Besides that, we are here also to help you to get through the guidelines that are sometimes maybe even not so clear enough. So do not hesitate to contact us, because the main goal is to have some quality-oriented projects with the real and important partnerships. So that's also one of our roles. In each country, there is one Creative Europe Desk, but we can also help. We are a network that is helping very much one to each other. So if you want to contact one other desk directly, that is also an option. Do not hesitate to do that also. I will just also mention that Creative Europe desks are not organized in the same way in all countries. For example, in our case, in Croatia and Italy, we are in the frame of the Ministry of Culture. But on the other hand, there are some other Creative Europe desks that are actually functioning as independent associations. So it's a different model of working. But all together, we are a big, happy family, creative family, and we like to help one to each other. So do not hesitate to contact us in any case, and if you need any help.
Grazie Nera. Grazie Nera, è vero, noi siamo una famiglia felice, siamo un bel network.
Right, we are a wonderful network, we are a happy family. We are very, very well connected. We offer free support for the calls of proposals. We are very well connected to each other. So whenever you wish to apply or you search for a partner, you can absolutely turn to our network. We are here because many Italian projects, or under the aegis of Italy, or many Croatian projects are intertwined in terms of their partnership. So we share a lot. And I personally discovered that me and share a lot. We have a lot in common in terms of our identity. Therefore, I will immediately introduce the Creamare project, financed by the 2021 partnership calls for proposals. It is coordinated by the 3D Research Project, which is a spin-off of the Calabria University, and even the Superintendency for Archaeology and Cultural Underwater Heritage is also a partner. So we have Fabio Bruno and Barbara David from the Superintendency.
Andiamo velocissimo. Tanto che parte la presentazione, ringrazio i desk per l'invito.
Thank you for your introduction. I shall thank Mrs. Conticello. She followed us and helped us with another project, and she's following us and supporting us with Creamare now. Right. So the Creamare project is coordinated by 3D Research. It is a spin-off of the Calabria University. It was founded in 2008. It has 22 employees. It is a creative company. We have this, we are inspired by the cultural heritage, and then there is also a technological inspiration, which is very much focused on the sea, both in terms of marine biology and in terms of the cultural underwater heritage. We've grown up a lot thanks to the cooperation with the European projects, now partnership, and recently with the Creative Europe project, which is very gratifying and very interesting for us. Let us go to turn to the Creamare project. It was launched for a call for cooperation. It is a middle-sized, up to 1 million euros, 5 partners, up to 5 states, 5 member states, and we reached 1 million euro as financing. It lasts for 36 months. The partners, through the researchers and the superintendency for the underwater archaeology in Italy, in Greece, Trusted Consulting, which deals with, especially with the economic sustainability of projects, and Pragma IOTAE, which is a computer company. Roena, which is very similar, Vena from Croatia. It is a creative company for digital innovation in cultural heritage. And then a Hungarian Progress from Hungary. It is a cultural lab which deals with projects and initiatives for cultural promotion and it deals with events and networking among artists and creative people. And then the Universitat de Arts from Spain, and together with the superintendency, they deal with underwater archaeology. They are the cultural-oriented and minded partners. In terms of the scenario, as Fiona said, the priorities are audience, because the project is aimed at increasing the audience, enlarging it, reaching a larger audience, especially young people who must, we aim to raise their awareness in terms of cultural interests. And then priority 6, and the cultural heritage framework, because we are in this setting, of course. So we can select 1 or 2. We selected these 2 priorities, and we decided to work on a theme, on an issue which is very dear to us. The enhancement of underwater archaeology, seen mainly as, from the viewpoint of communication and awareness raising in terms of the value of this heritage, and on the other hand, in terms of the challenges ahead for handing it down to the future generations. When we talk about underwater heritage, of course, we need to conserve and preserve the oceans from the environmental viewpoint. And this allows us to cope with the cross priority, which is connected to the environment. So we talk about cultural heritage, but we also talk about protection and respect for natural underwater environment. Also because these are two elements that are closely intertwined, because of course, the cultural heritage is always colonized by nature, by wildlife, so to say, and by plants and organisms. Our challenge is to remove the damages to the heritage, and this can happen in a very specific niche of the heritage, which is the underwater heritage, and this can happen only when we reach a certain critical mass. Except for the case of Italy, I mean, we do have a superintendency for underwater archaeology, but we talk about very small institutions having only 3-4 employees. So in order for us to reach out to the public, to the audience, we need to cooperate. I mean, cooperation is key, much more than in other sectors where you have big foundations, big institutions, which may support and are supported by huge funds, huge financing flows. So we try to support cooperation. How? By putting together, by means of this framework, which will be one of the objectives, 3 subjects, 3 stakeholders: creative agencies, professionals of creative industries, and cultural institutions. We try to put together these 3 souls, so to say, in order for us to conjure up applications or products, cultural products that can be enjoyed by the public and become accessible to the public. And we do this by means of a production process. So how can we create these products? By putting together the needs of the cultural institutions. They need to communicate, but they need to communicate in a scientific way by providing validated and flawless contents, and how to put together, how to marry this with the objectives of the entertainment or culture industry. They also must make money. They must support their business by selling these products. How can we put together these 2 needs, these 2 kinds of needs? And also we have to involve the creative subjects and people. There is a project for enhancing digital competencies, and this is finalized by a service game, which is connected to the co-production of this model. So ultimately, the training section will be aimed at the 2 institutes that are part of the consortium, plus 4, which will be selected by an open call, just to go to to the general public, and to look at the general audience and enlarged basing of professionals we turn to, and they will be involved on how to digitalize their underwater heritage. And then we will make available a site. It can be a shipwreck, it can be an underwater submerged city, and this will be identified as one of the scenarios of the serious game. And they will use this scenario within the video game. And this is one of the most interesting modes for us to divulge our heritage. We have we go up first and experience in this field. So it will be also a remote. There will be a remote access to, and the series game will allow the players to visit at least 6 underwater sites that are reconstructed in a very highly detailed manner. And during their visit, they will have to solve some riddles. So there will be a storytelling that will allow them to understand their environment even more and better. This experience is based upon Trade Dive, which was already developed, a series game on underwater archaeology on a smaller scale, on only 4 sites. So we base ourselves on this previous experience. I will quote very rapidly, just in conclusion, to conclude, two more projects which were financed. The Mare Box project, coordinated with a Greek partner, concerning, I'm talking about Creative Europe, of course, and partnership projects, that allowed us to have residential artists with 20 international participants, 29 works concerning social and marine subjects, and an exhibition was held in Berlin and in Cosenza. These are some images of the exhibition. And then finally, on the 2022 call for proposals, as a coordinator, we were able to win another competition, Art4C. This is another project, again, concerning artistic cooperation focused on small islands. So we will have some Ustica in Italy and some Gozo in Malta, and then a small island in Greece. Thank you. Can we go on with the next slide?
Let me just take a couple of more minutes to say that the National Superintendency for the Underwater Cultural Heritage is taking part in this project, and this is the first project that we've had funded by the European Community. Ours is an institution that was created and set up in December 2020. We've already started activities in the year 2020, and now, maybe if we could project the next slide. Okay, this is it. We see here what we do. We do some protection, safeguarding, cataloging of the underwater heritage and the enhancement of the same heritage. And we do that at a national coordination level. We coordinate a number of activities, again at national level, together with the Cultural Ministry superintendencies at territorial level. We have a number of ongoing projects, but this one in particular is the project that will see us involved in the drafting of the contents together with the partners and in the implementation of the activities of part of the project activities, and this is the Baio di Saturo, the Saturo Bay in the archaeological park of Leporano in the province of Taranto, where there are 3 relicts, and they are ancient wrecks, as a matter of fact, submerged wrecks. That is going to be the exercising theme of all of the teaching activities envisaged by this project. The activities will allow us to sort of supplement and enrich our cultural underwater heritage thanks to the activities of the superintendency, and that will be done through photo programmetry at image level, and all of the contents will be part of the serious games of the disclosing activities and dissemination activities envisaged by the project. Our task is the one of coordinating ourselves with other institutions that will be accepting or that will be eligible for the training and enhancement activities. Together with the cadets at university, we will also have and share the task of supporting the creative minds in the drafting and making of the contents. This is very important because all of the partners of the project have a primary goal. The end goal is the one of communicating in a funny, involving manner the scientific qualitative contents. I hope that I did not exceed my time limits, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Actually, I do believe that we all agree that actually contemporary art is something that can also give a kind of open questions and new perspectives on the heritage side. So I would like to present Ena Hodzic from Croatian agency, actually association called Container, Biro suvremene umjetničke prakse Prakse, which would mean Office for Contemporary Practices. They're, for the moment, engaged in one project called A Sea Change, which tackles actually heritage and contemporary art in the same direction. Container is an association that already exists for about 20 years. Ena Hodzic, who will present the project A Sea Change, finished her studies in museology and history art and sustainable heritage. She is active in the Container Association already for 10 years, and for the moment a coordinator of that particular program. So I would like to invite her to present the project.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me.
Yeah. Yes.
But I can hear myself also. Just a moment, please. Okay. Thank you, Anera, for this introduction. I will try to share my screen now and to present you briefly with our new project that is called Sea Change. Sea Change project has started in June this year, in 2022, and it is a small-scale European corporate project. Container, I'm sorry, but I can hear myself and it's really, really distracting.
Okay. Maybe you can just make volume down.
Let me try this.
Yeah.
I can hear myself very loudly.
I see. So you have an echo.
Yeah. Let's try again. Okay, I think this is better.
Okay.
So NGO Container from Zagreb, as Anera already introduced us, is an organization that deals with contemporary art and
Now
mostly...
we have lost your presentation.
Oh, you can see? Okay.
Yeah, you don't share the screen anymore.
Okay. What about now?
Now it's okay. Thanks.
Okay. Sorry.
It's a hybrid world we're living in.
Yes. Technology never works. So a Container, an NGO from Zagreb that deals with contemporary art, mostly art interconnected with science and technology. We are the initiators of the Sea Change project and the lead partner. The project has started in June this year and it lasts for 2 years. And here you can see our partners from Cyprus, Spain, and Greece. This is a project website that we have launched a few days ago. And we have started recently with our first activities in Cyprus. What is maybe the most important and a really good illustration of our agenda is this idea of sea change, that in English language has a double meaning. It means to make a complete change or a transformation or an adjustation in a really general sense of word, but it also means a change that is brought directly by the sea. So this is something that is in the core of our project in the content sense. Exactly that we want to achieve through our activities is that we want to bring experimental, contemporary, cultural and artistic practices and content to coastal areas, to Mediterranean cities where we all work, where partners work, and also to place focus on some themes that are sea-related and that are relevant for the lives of these coastal communities and also for organizations and institutions that deal with the sea. These are topics like blue economy, biodiversity and sustainability, also tourism and similar topics. So project objectives, we can also summarize them a little differently. The practices that we want to showcase in these coastal areas where we will work are new and sustainable. So these are practices that are experimental and a little bit different in relation to, for example, standard touristic content that we find in these cities. We also are really, really focused on education and knowledge exchange and sharing the good practices between us. Of course, with local citizens and local institutions and organizations that work in these cities. We are really directed towards cross-sector collaboration. So we seek collaborations between cultural organizations and institutions and scientific institutions, touristic organizations, and similar agents that work in these cities. Of course, what is really important for us is to have a critical approach and to try to experiment and test some innovations in coastal economies, meaning that we want to connect with local economies that are based in tourism, but we want to challenge them and maybe enrich them with some practices that are more experimental. We are inspired by our artists that we work with that, for example, experiment in prototyping new type of materials, plastic materials that can be 3D printed but are generated from food waste that comes from, for example, restaurants and so on. So we are inspired with these experimental practices, but we want to have some dialogue and some hopeful impact also on coastal economies in this area. We have different thematic areas within our project activities. So we deal not only with sustainability, ecological issues, but also with activistic approaches that are often very much interlinked with experimental artistic practices. As I said, we deal with some money issues, with economies, but also we deal with cohabitation, with local lives in areas that are very much affected by tourism, that have a seasonal dynamics, and that also, of course, as much as they benefit from the tourism, they also face a lot of challenges. These are some activities, but also results that we want to achieve in these 2 years. Some activities that are more common, such as exhibitions, artist talks, public discussions, also documentaries, not only screening of documentaries, but also producing documentaries from our own activities and documenting everything that we do. We have 4 research and production residencies in this project. It's very important for us to host the artists, to make them, to give them better opportunity to connect with this local infrastructure and local agents, and to, of course, to support their artwork, to finance and showcase what they are doing. Also, a lot of workshops. As I said, we are very much focused on education. We have a 10-day winter school program in Split in Croatia next year. Also a big conference in Barcelona, a lot of lectures, and 1 project publication that will have contribution from all the partners, and the final event that we plan to have in Barcelona, where we showcase all of the project results. Our methodology is actually very, very simple. We will try to work together to innovate different formats and to achieve different innovative results, to co-create things together, to have as much cooperation and as much interlinks between our activities. We want to, of course, to learn and grow together through this process and to showcase our results. And what is really important for us, to assess the entire process that we will go through in these 2 years, meaning that we have very self-critical and auto-reflexive approach, and we want to share not only the good results that we had in this project, but also some issues or challenges that we will face throughout this process. Thank you, Anera and Croatian Creative Europe Desk for having us, and thank you to the host of this conference for having us participate.
Thank you, Anna. To be honest, I'm really curious about those results, since I really think that sea and Mediterranean, it's our common heritage that we have to preserve all together. So we will wait for the results, and until then we'll check out the website you have shared and that you just opened recently. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much, and it was really interesting, and I am sure that also the 3D research was really interested to this different approach to the coastal economy. Thank you very much. Now we are. Ora noi stiamo partendo.
Now we shift to the second part of the meeting. We will be talking about cultural roots with Giuliana De Francesco, who's our representative for roots, and Antonio Barone, who is the director of the Phoenician Roots. So we pass the floor to you.
È acceso? Mi sentite? Perfetto, grazie. Buongiorno a tutti, io voglio ringraziare...
Good morning, everybody. I should thank Anna Conticello, the responsible for our cultural desk.
Cercheremo di contenere i tempi il più possibile sugli itinerari culturali del Consiglio d'Europa.
And we will talk about the cultural roots of the European Council. Very briefly, is a distinctive institution. It is made up of 46 member states because Russia, the Russian Federation went out, was decided to go away. And our objective is to promote law and order, human rights, and to avoid whatever may come when the council, we don't want wars. The war that preceded the setting up of the Council of Europe. We wish to understand and build an accomplish shared European identity. Since 1944, the Council of Europe, yes, unfortunately, we are not isolated acoustically. So the Cultural Convention, Covenant of Europe, was signed by some member states of Europe, and the aim is to set up a European community based upon cultural dialogue. In 1977, the program for cultural root was launched by the Council of Europe, which since the very beginning was a program belonging to the Council of Europe. Cultural itineraries are presented as a voyage through times and space to discover what unites us and also what allows us to not only to build this common identity, which bears common traits, but also personal, individual, economic, social well-being based upon culture, landscape, and creativity. The cultural roots are trans-European roots. In order to be certified by the Council of Europe, and a route must cover at least 3 countries, and it can be focused on the very different issues and themes. Phoenicians or Mosaic, be it the Phoenicians, the historical cafeterias, ceramics, a wide range of issues, any issue or a theme. These thematic roots, of course, must be analyzed by teams, by experts. At present, we have 48 certified cultural routes. A spoiler on the one subsequent slide, 33 of them go through Italy, and they cover Italy, and they cover more than 60 countries as a whole by crisscrossing parts on all these countries. And of course, it depends on the routes. These are self-organized, self-relying routes. The procedure for applying is totally different from the procedure that must be followed at UNESCO. The Council of Europe has no role. The member states are totally independent. They sit on the governing board, and they then grant this certification. after a selection and assessment process, which is quite complicated and intricate. The program was launched in 87, and then it becomes a partial and enlarged agreement in 2010. I mean, the member states who mean to participate adhere to the agreement and co-finance the cost. Non-European member, we have the Lebanon and the Vatican, and maybe some other ones. Why should we get the certification from the Council of Europe as a cultural route? Well, the certification, first of all, bears witness to the excellence of the route and of the network, and it's being very vital, very vivid and vibrant. It gives international recognition, and the route is not certified once and for all. It must undergo periodic assessment. So this bears witness to the fact that it is alive and kicking over time. You can get access to wide networks managed by the coordination body or by the central headquarters based in Luxembourg. And it gives many opportunities for training, and good practice communities and researchers may take part in them, and they can promote sustainable tourism. I will go rapidly through my slides, and then if you have a question, I will take them. The technical agency supporting the assessment certification is the European Institute in Luxembourg, and this wonderful church, which is a multi-purpose center. The certification attests to the European dimension and the possibilities for networking. It does not give access to financing directly, but both because it grants us a sort of excellency trademark or label, and because of the fact that a route becomes successful, that's why it is then certified. So this contributes to structuring it, both in terms of its organization and its technical traits or features. And for this fact, it becomes a candidate for financing. And also it gives, the main event for our cultural roots is the annual forum, advisory forum. All the stakeholders and actors, tourist agencies, researchers, ministries, regional authorities meet at this forum. We held it in Kenya in Greece in October. This is not very updated as a slide. It depicts or it shows a number of projects of cultural roots in which the routes are either lead partners or partners, and they finance not only by Creative Europe, but also by many other programs such as Interreg, Horizon, Erasmus, Cosme, that promotes cultural and creative small and medium-sized enterprises. And this Erasmus, a recent project, the Finnish en route itinerary. The governing board meets to grant the certification based on the assessment of experts from the European Institute and of the Presidency Institute of the governing body itself. An important point to be made is that some routes are walking routes. For example, the San Francigena, which is our sort of Santiago route, which is also certified, and which was the first one in 1987 to be certified. Of course, the Francigena route is very much dear to us. We pay a lot of attention to it. They are not only walking routes, but they're also thematic networking itineraries that, so to say, connect points on the map, but they are also thematic, connecting, for example, the olive culture of the wine itineraries. These are either Italian routes. 9 are coordinated by Italy and within Italy. We cannot make a list of them, but we have some brochures that will be dealt out. Italy has discovered this world. There are about 500 organizations that take part in the routes, and they are very active on the territory and in the field. The Italian presidency in Europe has dedicated an exhibition, which was exhibited in Strasbourg, and then it was an itinerant exhibition. And to the roots space, we dedicated a space to roots, and at the presidency in April, when Italy was holding the presidency. And one route was concluded in May. We collaborated with the school, and we just concluded it with the latest deliverables. We devised a strategy for the promotion of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe, which will now be implemented, and the production, of course, of information brochures or material and leaflets are part of this strategy, but also a number of dialogues and meetings with the policymakers, with the ministries, and a lot of interest has been shown by Ministry of Health, of Ministry of Agriculture, which may benefit from the activities of the roots for implementing their policies, and hopefully they may also support the roots as far as it's possible. I've tried to be very brief, and I hope clear enough. Yes, very well. I pass the floor now to Antonio Barone, who is the director of the Phoenician Route.
Del legame anche con la Croazia, perché ovviamente è nella rotta, e vi annuncio anche che dopo avremo un aperitivo, e quindi se qui di fronte potremo continuare la conversazione in allegria qui fuori.
Allora, grazie intanto dell'invito, molto brevemente perché i minuti sono contati prima della lasciar libera la sala per chi verrà dopo, abbiamo 3 minuti, però io vado in completamento dell'intervento di quello che ha detto prima Giuliana, e per chiarire una cosa, il tema degli itinerari culturali in Italia è poco conosciuto, cioè si pensa di sapere di che cosa si tratta, ma in effetti non è così, perché gli itinerari è un fenomeno molto complesso. Noi abbiamo l'idea degli itinerari in termini di cammino, ma come diceva Giuliana, io faccio vedere subito la slide, i campi di intervento, tanto per cominciare, i campi di intervento, come diceva Giuliana, non sono 5, ma tra questi voi vedete ci sono interventi che hanno a che fare con la specificità del Consiglio d'Europa. Il Consiglio d'Europa è un organo diplomatico, non è un organo a base culturale, si occupa di itinerari culturali come strumento per dimostrare la cittadinanza europea. Quindi gli itinerari sono impostati come strumenti di cooperazione, non come percorsi, come itinerari nel senso tradizionale del termine, ma tra le attività previste, vedete, c'è la ricerca. Per esempio la rotta dei Fenici ha sviluppato nel tempo, noi siamo a 20 anni di attività, quindi abbiamo avuto un bel trascorso, abbiamo una rete di università e di centri di ricerca internazionale di livello assoluto, cito per tutti, abbiamo il CNR, oltre che università di 12 paesi, interpretazione alla memoria europea, che è lo strumento con cui parliamo del patrimonio, le azioni per i giovani, questo è l'anno europeo dei giovani, quindi uno sguardo al futuro, quindi lavorare per i giovani e per il loro futuro, pratiche artistiche e culturali che riguarda l'attualizzazione di questo patrimonio, cioè come noi oggi proponiamo nuova cultura partendo dal tema degli itinerari, e infine il turismo sostenibile e lento per le comunità e lo sviluppo locale, quindi le comunità al centro del nostro percorso. I temi che sono stati tracciati prima dal collegamento che ci è giunto da Bruxelles, noi li seguiamo tutti, ma non li seguiamo per il progetto, noi li seguiamo perennemente. Questo dovrebbe essere una chiave di lettura che io sottopongo regolarmente ai 15 paesi con cui cooperiamo, perché è un tema in cui noi non siamo il candidato per il progetto, per il bando, ma siamo il partner ideale per poter sviluppare queste attività sui territori di quel paese, ma anche a livello internazionale. Gli itinerari che io oggi rappresento, porto il saluto pure dell'itinerario dell'Albero di Ulivo, che ha sede in Grecia, Georgios Karapatos, il presidente, e Emanuela Panca, presidente di Tervitis, trattano temi che non sono l'ulivo e il vino, ma sono la cultura che c'è dietro questi prodotti e che si integra perfettamente con la rotta dei Fenici, che tratta il tema del dialogo interculturale mediterraneo. Quindi le rotte, di cui parleremo tra l'altro domani in un evento che si terrà alla Basilica di mattina, non sono il tema prettamente culturale, ma è il network che lavora su queste cose che diventa importante. Tra i 48 itinerari certificati, lo diceva prima Giuliana, soltanto 8 sono cammini. Questo è un altro errore che si fa spesso da noi, di pensare che tutti gli itinerari sono cammini. Non è così, soltanto 8 lo sono. Gli altri sono delle reti culturali, delle reti permanenti di creazione culturale. Quindi da questo punto di vista c'è molto da fare. Io li presento brevemente, giusto per rispettare il mandato. Qui abbiamo i Tervitis, che tratta il tema del paesaggio viticolo europeo, quindi il paesaggio come elemento culturale, quindi il tema dei vigneti non da un punto di vista del prodotto, ma della cultura che c'è dietro la produzione del vino, che ricordo è uno dei 4 prodotti fondamentali del Mediterraneo. L'altro è l'Albero di Ulivo, che è un simbolo di pace, un simbolo di dialogo, quindi da questo punto di vista il Consiglio Europa ha certificato una rete in cui ci sono tantissimi paesi. Paradossalmente la rotta dei Fenici, che è l'ultimo che è presente in ordine di elenco, è quello più piccolo, ma noi lavoriamo in 15 paesi, in 3 continenti, e stiamo avviando collaborazioni pure in America, perché partiamo dalle metodologie operative. Ora, in particolare per la rotta, per esempio, soltanto nel campo della cooperazione culturale cito le attività di archeologia pubblica che stiamo sviluppando come modello per le comunità per crescere intorno al proprio patrimonio. Vuol dire anche pensare a nuove figure, per esempio con molti paesi, proprio perché non siamo un itinerario archeologico e non trattiamo solo i Fenici, trattiamo tutte le antiche civiltà del primo millennio a.C. come modello per capire il Mediterraneo di oggi. Nel passato troviamo le chiavi di lettura del nostro presente e del nostro futuro, quindi collaborare vuol dire sviluppare queste iniziative. Valto molto brevemente metodologie, i centri di interpretazione, ne parlavamo prima con gli amici corsi che sono qua in sala, loro stanno realizzando dei centri di interpretazione, noi li certifichiamo e diventano gli strumenti con cui i territori raccontano la propria identità non solo al pubblico che viene da fuori, ai turisti, ma soprattutto alla propria comunità residente, che spesso non conosce il suo patrimonio. È il sistema con cui si fa turismo creativo, sviluppando collaborazione con le imprese del territorio. Ma cito la rete dei musei del Mediterraneo, capofila il MAN di Napoli e i musei della Catalogna, che sviluppano con noi nuove metodologie di presentazione e quindi attraverso queste la collaborazione con le comunità. Per ultimo, vado molto velocemente, l'attività per i giovani, l'ho detto prima. In termini di turismo culturale lavoriamo sulle smartways, un modello che è stato proposto dalla rotta dei Fenici per la propria attività, è stato adottato dall'Unione Europea nell'area USAIR, e lì la collaborazione con la Croazia, che è uno dei paesi con cui lavoriamo di più. Vengo ora dall'assemblea che si è svolta proprio in Croazia, ma allo stesso tempo sono stati adottati dal Consiglio d'Europa e ora anche dai paesi sudamericani hanno chiesto di adottare questo modello. Quindi ragioniamo di modelli, ragioniamo di nuove conoscenze. Da un punto di vista di Creative Europe noi adottiamo tutte le loro visioni, cioè nella presentazione di prima io trovavo tutte le nostre attività. Mi chiedo se non sia il caso di ragionare, perché queste sono delle reti permanenti, non cambiano. A noi ci propongono di partecipare ai progetti e poi ci dicono: senti, è finito il progetto, puoi gestire il portale perché continua a operare? Ora, l'Europa dovrebbe considerare che queste attività poi hanno una continuità. Gli itinerari garantiscono questa continuità. Noi siamo qui da 20 anni e ci saremo per i prossimi 20 almeno. Grazie.
Allora, vi ringrazio sia Giuliana.
I thank both Giuliana and Antonio. I should say that the Council of Europe is very dear to me. I take it very much at heart because it was my first task a few years ago. So I'm moved whenever I talk about Council of Europe. Thank you, because you really cast a new light on what cultural roots mean and what this tessera in the tourist mosaic means. There is a bottom-up approach, there is a methodology, communities, local communities must be involved. And whenever we talk about the Council of Europe, I should remind you that we act in the spirit of the Faro Convention. We believed in it so much. I saw the draft in 2004 But the reason why we drew up the convention is precisely to give an answer and to cope with the wars in the 90s in the territory of the former Yugoslavia, as it was called at that time, as a peaceful response in building up the European Europe identity. And this is such a hot issue today. So the Faro Convention is a very hot issue today. I thank you very much. Myself and Anera say goodbye to you. I do that in Italian, and I pass the floor to my colleague.
Actually, I think that Antonio summarized very well my thinking last 2 days. It's the fact that we can rely on heritage in order to build up a better future. So I think that all the questions that are raised in our common values for the centuries can be a good perspective and answer for all our future activities. Thank you for being with us.
Grazie a voi.